there is nobody's brain on the planet that I think is more fun and exciting to have in the process with than Christina Baker Kline. So, I mean, so many people have read her brilliant novels. When we first met, it was because I came to a bookstore event for her second novel. So it was early in her career, but she was much further along in her novel writing than I was. I had newly moved to town, to Montclair, New Jersey. Christina had moved just a couple of years there before me. And this was before we had things like Facebook or anything like that. So I opened the local paper and I saw that there was this writer whose book was coming out at the bookstore right around the corner. And I didn't know how to meet other writers. I was new to this community. And I got brave and I said, I'm going to go to this reading and I'm going to introduce myself to this amazing person. And I'm going to say, could we please have coffee? And we did. And it was really from that the way that we loved to talk to each other, to analyze
Yeah.
books, films, all of that kind of stuff. So we entered this collaboration space already having this sort of really 24/7 conversation about culture, about books, about literature, about writing. And that's where I knew that we would be able to be very well suited for each other on the idea space. And then with the fiction writing space, what was fun was that Christina and I were both entering a new genre with this book. She's got her incredible lane with her solo work. I have my lane with my solo work. And the psychological thriller space was new to both of us. So I knew we would each be able to bring our different backgrounds as well as our shared sensibilities and be beginners together.
Crystal River in the Adirondacks is indeed a character in our novel. In fact, it is the setting for the next novel as well, and maybe for some novels to continue. There's some thrillers. I think you know that I'm from Maine and I have a place in Maine. I'm in Maine right now. Anne had a family home in the in the Berkshires, and also lived in a small town in Massachusetts that she can talk about. But we wanted to create a place that was just our playground, where we made up the name Crystal River. There are all kinds of little puns for the bar and the bookstore and things like that. And we have a cast of characters there, some of whom make it through the first book and some of whom don't. But we wanted a place that felt off the beaten track. It was remote enough that in itself could be scary. We wanted a place where snow falls. We wanted a place where the characters in town know each other, but also easily have secrets from each other. One of our favorite shared films, we have a list of favorite thrillers and favorite thriller books and films and whatever, and is A Simple Plan. And the idea of that kind of small town where people are pretending a lot of times and you don't quite know what's really going on behind the surface, just felt perfect for us. And our character, Haley, moves from New York City to Crystal River. So she's a fish out of water, which just seemed like the perfect way for us to begin our story.
What's been exciting for us and why our work is growing in this area is that we were world building with Crystal River as well as world building with this book. So like we would narrate the town together. We'd be like, well, what's on Main Street and what store is next to the other store? And what kind of state of disrepair or repair is this side of the block and that side of the block? And where would they go after they go to high school? What would happen to them next? So part of our constant conversations were about building this universe. And so now we can both just dip into Crystal River and we know what we're talking about as if we have created a film that we're both watching.
The farmer's market, every small town has a farmer's market. It's a place of gossip, of, constant change, of people running into each other in a way they might not on Main Street even. And then we have this wonderful coffee shop called Bones and Leaves. And
And the
that
coffee is terrible there.
coffee's terrible. And it's a little dusty, but over the course of more books, things are gonna, we already have a plan for how this coffee shop is gonna change over time. It's just we're just delightfully situated in this town. And there's a bar, as I said, where a lot is happening in the new novel we're working on. And what else would you say?
Oh, I think one of my favorite places is Anderson's Hardware.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah,
hardware
I
store.
mean, that's a really big, like, there's a huge sort of setup that happens in the hardware store. And one of the most fun things, I think, for writing in terms of place and scene was when you and I created the aisles of
Yes.
Anderson's Hardware. We're like, what is sold where? What does it feel like? We had the characters sort of touching different things and the scents and the smells, the sounds over the loudspeaker, the children screaming in the background because they're annoyed that their parents have brought them to the hardware store. That was so much fun.
Well, and because it's such a pivotal setup in the book. I mean, in the hardware store, you get the setup for the whole novel, and there are actually things in that scene that play out, reverberate. So we just had a blast writing it. We went back to it again and again, really looking at what we had set up and what the characters were saying to each other, because they're all meeting for the first time, and it's this very important moment.
I think probably Cheryl Snyder is our greatest local Crystal River creation. And Christina and I really had a lot of fun making Cheryl's world and building Cheryl's backstory that doesn't even all come into play. But boy, do we know it. And she's the kind of character that whenever she kind of walks on the scene, the air shifts around her. And that was really fun for us to work with.
We have a few in the novel, sort of character actors. Like Cheryl is one of them. Emily, who comes from the outside to visit, is another one who's got a big personality but a fairly small role. So we really enjoyed populating the book with these extra people who had pretty big quirks of their own, and didn't interrupt the flow, but added some element to the story that was kind of fundamental.
Our main character, Haley's new husband, Brandon, grew up in this small town of Crystal River. That's the backdrop. Had moved away to Florida where they met. Brandon followed Haley to New York City, but he was a fish out of water in New York City. And then when Haley had a lot of tragedies in her early life, was looking for a fresh start, she decided to move almost sight unseen with Brandon to his childhood home, thinking, it was an idyllic, beautiful country wooded retreat and nothing would possibly go wrong there, right? So it's very fun to have adult Brandon come back and run into people from his past. Who knew him as a kid and didn't necessarily have maybe the highest opinion of him, which was news to Haley.
Very fun to explore all of that.